Let me just tell you exactly what my message is. The Republican Party will soon be known as the party of health care. You watch.
Okay, to that point right there, coming off what arguably were two of the more positive news days of his presidency, the Trump administration surprised a lot of people today, even folks on the home team within the GOP, with a move to obliterate Obamacare. The administration initially argued parts of the law were unconstitutional, but with a two-sentence letter released in the dead of night, the Trump DOJ declared the whole thing should be thrown out. If successful, over 20 million people will lose their health care, and protections for people with pre-existing conditions will disappear. Politico characterized the move as a gift to the Democrats. Phil Bump of the Washington Post offered this, quote, "It's hard to overstate what a strange political decision this is for Trump. He's up for re-election next year, and as he showed in 2016, understands that health care coverage is an important issue to voters." But according to the Daily Beast, quote, "Over the past 24 hours, Republican officials have watched in horror as the Trump administration once again fully embraced the repeal of Obamacare." Well, here with us to talk about it, Kelsey Snell, congressional reporter for NPR. And we're very happy to introduce to our audience Alexi McCammond, politics reporter for Axios. Thank you both for coming on. Kelsey, factoring in the very real chance of Democratic overreach, I want to show you what Maggie Haberman tweeted on this subject today. We mentioned it at the top of our broadcast. Asked an administration official why the ACA suit would be filed now on the heels of Trump's best 2 days in 2 years. Official deadpanned, "Too much positive news. We needed to change the subject." Is this the gift to the Democrats it appears to be, Kelsey?
Oh, it absolutely is, because Democrats basically say they won the House in 2018 by presenting voters with a binary choice. They set up a message where Democrats said that they were the party protecting pre-existing conditions and protecting health care, and they were telling voters that Republicans were the ones who wanted to take all of that away. Now, the president, with this, this change in legal strategy, is essentially saying, yes, that is the party that I want this party to be. I want to bring back the conversation about health care and make it easier for Democrats to set that message going into 2020. Democrats are all too happy to take that as an alternative to talking about, well, the Mueller report and the ways that that didn't meet their expectations.
And Alexi, the polling isn't great for Trump. Quoting a Fox News poll, he's underwater, disapprove 52 to 37. And then there's the library of comments that President Trump has given us on this topic. Let's listen to that. We'll discuss it on the other side.
A lot of people don't know about it, but we've set up some incredible health care programs that are far better than Obamacare and a lot less expensive.
Republicans will always protect patients with pre-existing conditions. We're doing it. And Republicans will always protect patients with pre-existing conditions. Please remember that. Republicans will always protect patients with pre-existing conditions. I wish people would get that into their heads.
We're going to have another exciting news conference over the next, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks? What do you think? On health care. We have great health care.
Alexi, what do you think is going on here?
I think it is a really strange political strategy, except for the 3 clips you showed in a row, in which it was just a couple of days before the November 2018 midterm elections, when it was this last-ditch effort, not just by President Trump, but by many congressional Republicans running in competitive races around the country, who at the very last minute, at the 11th hour, if I might say, we're saying, oh, we're going to protect people with pre-existing conditions. We've got this. We are the party of health care. And now you hear Trump saying that again, which is just a ridiculous claim to make, because we all know that the Republican Party is nothing more than the party of Donald Trump right now. And if he's deciding that he wants to repeal health care at a time when Democrats are calling for universal health care, that presents a pretty clear binary choice to voters in 2020 who are looking at their 2 options and saying maybe there are nuanced disagreements among Democratic candidates running for president about how they will achieve universal health care, but I am choosing between health care or no health care between the Republicans and the Democrats. Democrats, and that is something Donald Trump is owning by himself, as Republicans, as that Daily Beast article you mentioned earlier, are sort of watching in horror as he's making this executive decision with no plan for a replacement.
And Alexi, as you reminded us today, I heard you say it, this could go away because, after all, what about the middle-class tax cut promised days before the midterms?
Yes. I'm glad that you brought that up and that I said that earlier, because we've seen this time and again. There's a clear pattern of behavior with Donald Trump that I think for the Republicans, unfortunately, sometimes trickles down to them in Congress, where they have to explain these things or eventually end up campaigning on these things, whether that's now repealing Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act without any clear replacement, or saying the week before the midterms that he's going to have a middle-class tax cut after report came out showing that the GOP tax law is not helping those middle-class voters or those rural voters that supported Donald Trump and carried him to the White House in 2016 in the way that he promised them. And doing something like health care, which is a top issue polling consistently among voters. It's also something I was reminded today that Democrats in 2018 spent half of their advertisement money on health care messages in the 2018 midterm elections. This is a huge issue for both parties, and the president is simply ripping it away from Republicans, not just himself running in a presidential re-election in 2020, but from Republican candidates up and down the ticket who are running and who are going to have to address this issue for themselves.
And Kelsey, I was also reminded today, politicians don't tend to be subtle, and they tend to be lousy actors. Witness Nancy Pelosi saying to the Washington Post reporter, "This is news," when she made her last statement on impeachment. Well, now, I'm paraphrasing, all the Democrats are about how this is just about issues for the American people, and we're not anxious to talk about the Mueller report. That's been a switch in 2 days.
It has, and it's something that they really decided in a meeting yesterday behind closed doors. It's this weekly leadership meeting that Pelosi holds, and she held the meeting last night. And I'm told that she walked in the door and said, "Okay, we're getting back to basics." And basics for Democrats, and we saw it play out a little bit in the press conferences that happened all day today. Basics for them are talking about health care, talking about their anti-corruption and ethics. The legislation that they're working on, and infrastructure. And those are the things they want to talk about. They want to talk about going back to kitchen table issues, because they think that voters really didn't care about Russia to begin with, and they kind of feel like they got sidetracked. So they want to reclaim part of the way they talk about everything they're doing going forward, because they want it to be about setting up policy decisions, making voters choose between President Trump and what he wants to do on trade, on infrastructure, on health care, versus Democrats. And they think that they win in these spaces where they talk about policy. And whether or not that actually plays out in a Senate race or in a presidential race, which is really, really different than the politics of House races, which is what they were running to get the control they have in Washington now, that's yet to be seen. But this seems to be the way that Pelosi wants to push the conversation going forward.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.